She took in a struggling college student, not knowing he'd transform her life forever. Claire Bennett had grown accustomed to the quiet, the kind that settled into every nook of her two-story stone house in the peaceful little town of Willilliford. Most days, the only sounds were the soft ticking of the mantel clock, or the distant hum of a car on the cobbled main street. It had been almost 4 years since her husband Peter passed away, and while she'd adjusted to living alone, there were moments when the silence felt like a heavy weight. On that late September afternoon, the air was cool, the sky a somber gray, heavy with the promise of rain. Claire was returning from the local market, her wicker basket swaying at her side when she spotted him. A young man sat on the low stone wall marking the edge of her small front garden. His shoulders were hunched, his jeans damp at the knees, and a worn leather satchel rested beside him. He looked as though he'd been there for hours. Claire slowed her pace, her usual reserve giving way to curiosity. "Are you all right?" she asked, her voice carrying a natural warmth. The young man looked up, startled. "Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to linger. I was just taking a rest." There was a blend of embarrassment and exhaustion in his voice. Up close, she could see he was no older than 22, with neatly kept brown hair and tired eyes that spoke of too many sleepless nights. "Long day?" she asked gently. He hesitated, then nodded. "Long week, actually. I'm Daniel Parker," he continued. "I was staying in student housing for college, but he trailed off, glancing away. "They told me I had to leave. I couldn't keep up with the rent." Claire felt an unexpected pang in her chest. She'd been a student many years ago, and remembered the mix of pride and desperation that came with trying to make ends meet. "So where are you staying now?" Daniel let out a short, forced laugh that didn't quite sound casual. "Nowhere really. Just hoping to find something before it gets dark." The clouds overhead shifted, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Without thinking, Claire said, "You can't sit out here all afternoon in the rain. I have a spare room upstairs. Nothing fancy, but it's warm, and the roof doesn't leak." He blinked at her as if she'd offered him the moon. "That's very kind, but I don't think I can afford." "We'll sort that out later," she interrupted briskly. "Come on, you'll catch your death out here." 5 minutes later, Daniel stood in her entryway, water dripping from him onto the old Persian rug. Claire fetched a towel from the linen closet and handed it to him. "Upstairs," she said, pointing toward the narrow staircase. "First door on the right. It's furnished bed, desk, wardrobe. The bathroom's next to it. You can pay what you can manage." He took the towel, looking at her with an expression she couldn't quite decipher. "Thank you. Honestly, I don't know what to say." "Then don't say anything," she replied with a small smile. "Just get yourself dry and warm." As Daniel disappeared up the stairs, Claire set her market basket on the kitchen counter. The rain pattered softly against the windows, and for the first time in years, the house felt different. Not just hers anymore, but alive again. She didn't know why she'd offered the room so quickly, but as she listened to the faint sound of footsteps above, she felt a quiet sense of contentment. Upstairs, Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, the towel draped around his shoulders, the tension in his body easing for the first time in days. He glanced around the modest but clean room, then closed his eyes. It wasn't just a place to sleep, it felt like a second chance. In the days that followed, Daniel settled quietly into the upstairs room. He kept mostly to himself at first, coming and going with the measured politeness of someone afraid of overstaying his welcome. Mornings were early for him. By the time Claire was up and making tea, he had already left for classes at Westfield College. Claire quickly noticed